given a couple of seconds with the ball and he floats it nicely into top left-hand corner. Don't think Fleming had any chance of getting on the end.
Welcome to another episode of the Maroon Machine podcast. Today, very special guest. He scored 50, 58, 59, you lose count goals for Kelty over the last couple of seasons. Had a great career up to this point. 3 brilliant years at East 5, played in the Championship with Falkirk and Inverness Kelty Thistle before coming down to Kelty and picking up 2 league winners medals so far and is about to venture out to some playoff games. It's Nathan Austin. How you doing, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks for having me on. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well.
You know what? It's brilliant to have you on. Timing's been good as well because we just closed off our Team of the Decade sort of poll that we were doing there, and we had to fill in the last couple of spaces. It was yourself and Stuart Cargill, obviously another well-known name at Kelty. You guys picked up the last couple of spots, so well done on that. How did you feel to get in there? Obviously, I knew there was a wee bit of back and forth with yourself and Cargie as well.
Yeah, I feel good. You know, it's hard because I've only played there for such a short period of time, and obviously there would have been players who've been there for years and stuff. But you know, obviously I had a really good year last year and stuff, and I think that's maybe what's leaned towards maybe people picking me. But you know, Team of the Decade's a big thing. Obviously, you know, 10 years and only playing such a small part and still having such a big impact on the team. You know, it's a thing that I'm very happy about.
No, absolutely. Thanks for coming on today, though, and we're going to talk about yourself. We're going to talk about your time at Kelty Hearts, Kelty Hearts podcast, but also I find out a bit about your career and what led you to joining Kelty a couple of seasons ago. So if we go right back to the beginning, you can tell you're quite naturally gifted as far as being a sports or an athlete, if you like. What sort of drew you into football at that young age?
It's just the thing. I think maybe it's changed this day and age. But when I was younger, it's like I was just constantly out the house. So you know, the more time I was out the house, the better it was. You know, and I've got a younger brother who's kind of similar age, only a year and a half between us. So you know, the cheapest thing and easiest thing to do is just have a ball. You don't even need to own a ball. You could just go out and play with someone else's ball as long as you're out the house. And we were quite close to the field behind us. And you know, playing football was just a way to make friends and you know, obviously keep active. And it's just something that I really enjoyed from a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm right in thinking, you moved up to Scotland, I think, when you were 6 or 7 years old. Was football part of your life when you lived down in England, or was that when you came up to Scotland that you started to get into your football?
When I was in England, I didn't play for a team. I kicked about when I was at school. Obviously, I don't know, maybe like primary 3 or something. So it wasn't like, you know, when you're that age, it's hard to like be fully focused on something that you want to do. You know, it's more about running about the playground and stuff. But you know, coming up to Scotland, I feel like it's more. Like that's kind of the only sport at a younger ages in terms of football. Maybe it's a little bit changed now, but back then that was the way to make friends. That was like what the most popular kids played. So it was something that I was involved in as soon as I came up, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And so, what was the first team you played for when you started? I suppose getting into the proper team football. Was it sort of soccer 5's age or?
No, it was soccer 7. So the first team, it was my good friend who I'm still friends with now. You know, Anthony Cooper, his name is. His mum became friends with my mum, and she was like, "Well, you could take your son to training with Anthony," kind of thing. So it was a team called East Nook, and they've actually played in the Dundee League. I think it was Geordie Bats or someone, the manager at the time, a massive Dundee United fan. So I just went there, but the age groups were like quite diverse. So there was some like people older, some people quite younger. So it wasn't like when I got into a proper team like Kennaway, where it was like the ages were fixed, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started playing football, could you tell if you're a natural goal scorer? Did that come through naturally when you were younger, or were you a bit more playing all over the place, or have you always been a goal scorer?
No, I don't think so. I think I started off as played centre mid. I've never been the best at football, kind of thing. I've always been okay. The thing that when I was younger was I was just really, really fast. So, you know, as a young football players, I think a lot of people know, like, if you're really fast, then you're naturally going to get chances and you look better than what you actually are. But in terms of football ability, I was never really the best. You know, it's been years and years of you're trying to improve yourself, and I keep doing that right now, you know, to get better. That it wasn't just a natural thing of being amazing at football. It was just more the physical attributes of being quite fast and quite strong. You know, that helped me progress at a younger age.
Absolutely. And is it Jordan? Is that your brother? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Obviously, growing up playing football with him was a big. Who was a better football player at yourself and Jordan? I know you both spent a bit of time at East Fife together, but growing up, who was a better football player?
Yeah, it's a weird one because he's actually like really skillful and really good with the ball. But look, as we were growing up, I was probably a little bit better, but then it got to a point where he, like, his technical ability kind of showed through, and I think that's kind of how he got picked up at East Fife while I was there, because like people were watching him, and you know the skills that he can produce and stuff, and you know if anyone's watched me, you know that I've not really got skills. So yeah, definitely it was a time where we were quite close, but like I said, the physical attributes of myself always kind of showing through rather than the actual football ability sometimes. So no, in terms of football, I think he's a really good player, and I still enjoy watching him today.
Yeah, did you go through the youth football ranks with your brother, or did you end up in different teams?
Yeah, so he was at Kennaway as well with me, but just that I'm a 94, he's a 95, so you know, it's still quite similar in ages kind of thing. So it was made it easier, obviously, playing football, not playing football with your brother, but obviously us both being sporty and, you know, both like pushing each other on, and that kind of competitive edge that we've still kind of got.
Yeah. So Kennaway, that was sort of your, I suppose, your first sort of foray into playing proper football. Where did you go after Kennaway? How long did you spend there, and what was your next step?
So I was there for about I think maybe like 3-4 years, and then it was like played our first season at 11 aside, and then the team got broken up. But I was a 94, but I always used to play 93, so I was playing like a year above. So yeah. And I was obviously still good at that level, so it kind of helped me progress like kind of when I was younger. But then I went back to Kennaway 94s to the correct age, and then I was there for a year, and then that team got folded, and then I went to East Fife JSC, the Junior Supporters Club, which, because East Fife didn't have a pro youth team at the time, and then at the end of that year they started up the pro youth, but I didn't really want to be a part of it. Didn't really enjoy the professional side of football. I kind of just more enjoyed just playing it. So then I went back to Methilstar Colts. I was 17 at the time. I played under 19, so I played 2 years above me, and I was there for a year, and then I went to amateur football, which just opened my eyes in terms of the love of the game even more, you know. And I played amateur for 2 years before signing my first professional contract with East Fife. So it was a bit of a whirlwind when I was younger, but it was something that I really enjoyed, and you know, the love of football kind of just grew on me the more I played it at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I suppose that you've touched on it there. That's the main thing when you're in youth football. It's the enjoyment factor. You mentioned it there, the professional side. You know, you would have been taking bits from it, but that's not your main interest when you're young. You want to hang about with your mates, you want to play football, and yeah, it's important that teams get a good balance of that. So, how did that move come around to go to East Fife? Because yeah, you were pretty much straight in there after you came for the amateur leaving. Yeah. I think it was.
I think so. I think like I said, for even like people kind of knew of me from a younger age, but like it's similar to what I know. There's nothing better than being a professional football player or being professional at what you do. Like in terms of when I play football, I'm still professional, but I like a laugh and a joke. Like everyone knows that I like a joke and I like a bit of banter and stuff. That's just something that I will always be about. So when it comes to like becoming pro youth at like whatever 16, 17, it was like if I wanted to be, say, like I want to be a professional football player now, or do I still want to enjoy the love of the game and the banter side in it? And that's why I chose that kind of way. But then when I was at amateur, it was just I was there for 2 years, and I was getting offered like junior clubs and that, but it wasn't something that really appealed to me. Like being junior, I'd rather play amateur than play junior for 50 or 60 quid or whatever it was at the time. But then obviously getting the chance to play for your local team like East Fife, and you know, I think Rangers were in the league at the time, and Lee Murray had just become the chairman. You know, it was too a big opportunity to turn down, and you know, I'm glad I didn't. So that's how that kind of came about, because I was doing so well at the amateur side of football. that East Fife took a chance on me at that time.
Absolutely, and you went on to have probably one of the most successful stints of your career. Probably in close competition with Kelty. It probably would have been Kelty if you'd managed to play 2 full seasons with how prolific your time has been here. But yeah, East Fife, that was massive. You had 3 great seasons there. What was it like playing along at Bayview?
I think it wasn't even as easy as what people think. The first season we got relegated, and I wasn't really a massive part of it until after Christmas time. And then even the second season, I was kind of in and out a little bit. And then towards the end of that season, I kind of kicked on. So, it was like a year and a half of not really enjoying it as much as I did previously before I enjoyed it as much as what I did towards the end, when we won the league and stuff. So, East Fife obviously was good, but the 3 years I was there, it wasn't just like plain sailing the whole time. It was tough, and I did have a lot of setbacks and a lot of, traveling a lot of places not to play, or just playing 15 minutes and not being the main man, which I wanted to be, which was hard.
Yeah.
But, it's something that I enjoyed to get through at the end of it, and then looking back, it's something that I'm really proud of.
And what obviously during there was still a few sort of standouts for your East Fife. You've mentioned it there, obviously the year your third and final season there. I think you'd already signed for Falkirk when East Fife went on to win the league, but you were loaned back to them for the remainder of the season. You went on to pick up a place in the team of the year alongside a few other boys. I think even Matty Flynn, who's obviously a teammate now, he was in that same team of the year as well. You had, you're well known for your hat-tricks and how much you love them at Kelty. You had a fair few at East Fife as well. I think he scored 4 in a game against Elgin at one point as well. That must have been huge. What were some of the highlights during your time at East Fife?
Obviously, definitely winning the league. It was more that season because I started the season so well, and I was maybe on like 9-10 goals after the first month, and then I had a massive dip in form in terms of, I think I went maybe like 4 or 5 games without scoring, and when you get to that point where you were scoring every week to the dip in form, and it's credit to Gary Naismith. He didn't take me to the team. He pulled me to the side. He said, "Look, you're still playing just as well. You're just not scoring the goals. You're still getting the chances. You're just not scoring the goals, and they'll come back." And just in December, I managed to get a few goals, and then that's when the team started calling to sign me full time and stuff. So that was a big highlight for me in terms of when it wasn't going so well, but then like pulling yourself out of it, and in December, kicking on and managing to grab a move. But the best thing for me was once I signed for Falkirk was being allowed to go back to East Fife and try and win the league, and we did. And the week we won the league was just one of the best weeks of my life. So it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was an East Fife side that had been in, I think it was maybe when they got relegated, it was the old Scottish second division, but they've been up in that. They hadn't been in the bottom tier of Scottish football, and I think since they've gone up, they've not dropped back down into League Two. Try to get all the names right because they keep changing them every 10, 15 year. But it was obviously a big deal for them to get back up there to sort of, I suppose, where they felt comfortable and where they could push on to try and get into the championship. So it was massive, and I'm sure it would have been great to have been a part of that. When the Falkirk move came around, was it a choice between Falkirk and some other places, or was it a case of Falkirk came in and you thought straight away that was where you wanted to go? How did it come about?
Yeah, I just signed for an agent in December, just before the January, because obviously, like I said, I started to, I'd started the season well, had a little dip, and then started to come back good. And I mentioned a few teams, Aberdeen were showing interest in me, but for me, I didn't think I was ready to play for Aberdeen. So if I did sign for Aberdeen, it would be like if I went to Aberdeen, it would be I'd get loaned out somewhere. And then Dundee were interested in me as well. And then I felt it would be more a competition at Dundee to try and play every week. Obviously, they were SPL at the time. And then obviously the way Falkirk were going that season, they beat Rangers and stuff, and they were they were in the league with Hibs and stuff. Like such a big club. And then Peter Houston had never paid for a player in his whole managerial career. And I was going to be the first person. So being someone like that, and he was Gary Naismith's coach at Hearts as well. And Gary Naismith had said how good he was and stuff. So it kind of fell into place leaning towards making that move happen rather than following you know, obviously Aberdeen had never put a bid in for me. And Dundee, Paul Hartley at the time was interested in me, and he wasn't sure if he could afford to sign me in the January, but they'd be interested in the summer. You know, stuff like that. Kind of, it was more like I'd rather went full time as soon as possible rather than waiting, because anything could have happened. You know, I could have got injured or anything could have happened towards the end of the season, and you know, them deals might have not came about anyway. So, you know, at the end, it was quite an easy decision.
Yeah, and that's a smart way to look at it, because that is football. One day, you know, you're counting your blessings and you're playing week in, week out, and the next it can change at the drop of a hat. So sounds like it was the right move at the time. What was the shift like? Obviously, part time, you know, you're holding down a job, go to training in evenings and playing on a Saturday to playing full time football. What was that transition like?
It was tough. It was tough because work was, although work you're there all day is easy, you know. But in terms of full time, like I said, there was never always the best football player. So it was like a nervous, like going into training, like into just like, now I'm a relaxed person. Like I go into training, and obviously I still try and get better, but it's more relaxed. Whereas then you're trying to not show off, but you're trying to prove like you're some player when you don't need to do that. You can. Looking back, I should have relaxed more, but at the time I was really tense and uptight, and going from the part time to the full time training was pretty tough as well. And yeah, it was tough at the start, but then after a while I got into the groove and got used to it and stuff. And it's probably the best life you can have, as being a professional football player.
Absolutely, and I mean, your time at Falkirk, particularly, I think you were there for 18 months sort of stint. There were some good spells in there. I think at a second place finish in some playoffs, you still managed to net 12 goals in your time at Falkirk as well, at championship level as well. Like, still a good period. What was it like approaching the playoffs and getting, I suppose, a chance to make that step up into the Premiership at first time asking?
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, the way the season had went, it was just at the start of the season, you know, injuries, not playing, you know, to so bad, and then after Christmas, you know, I had one of the best goals per minute in the league. You know, the last 5 games, I think I scored 5 or 6 goals in the last 5-6 games. You know, it was amazing, and going into the playoff, you know, banging form. You know, I'd scored the winning goal against Dumbarton in the last game of the season to secure us second. You know,
yeah.
It was a good feeling going into playoff, and then, you know, the playoff was disappointing, and you know, it's hard for me because the day of the playoff away to Dundee United, my nan actually passed away on that day, you know, I phoned up Peter Houston at the time and just said, look, I don't know what to say, like, this has happened, kind of thing. And he was like, look, it's your call, you don't need to play in that. And obviously I did want to play, so I played. But during that game, it was like the game just went by me. You know, I wasn't there emotionally, you know, because of what had happened. But that's not an excuse of how it went, because, you know, Dundee United deserved the win in the end. And yeah, it was a weird one, because looking back, it was such a big chance for us that I think if we did manage to beat Dundee United, then I think we would have went up. But you know, after that, the next season was a bit deflated after what had gone on, because we'd put so much into it.
Yeah, and obviously that's when Peter Houston, I think he'd been there for a few years, he made way for Hartley to come in. You mentioned earlier, obviously Hartley was interested in bringing you to Dundee. Did that come up when Hartley joined Falkirk? Did he ask you why he chose Falkirk over Dundee? Although I know you said obviously there was no offer on the table as such, but
no, it didn't. To be fair, I was when I heard that Hartley, because obviously as players you don't know who's getting a job, but you could hear who's been interviewed or stuff like that. And Rory Loy at the time was at Falkirk. He'd had Hartley before at Dundee, and he really didn't like him. But on the other hand, I would obviously tried to sign me before, so I was really excited to work with someone who would try to sign you. So yeah. When he came in, I was really excited. But then, you know, everyone knows it didn't work out. But you know, at first, when he got announced as manager, you know, I was absolutely buzzing. But then in the end, I was you know, I didn't enjoy it under him, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, and do you know what, that's one of the most common things you hear when you talk to players. It's when those manager changes come in. Probably one of the scariest things is that fear of unknown. That was obviously one of your earliest, you know, situations where you'd been in where a manager change came in, but it's definitely one of the scarier parts of football life, I think, when a new manager comes in, because you don't know if you're going to be part of the plans or not. And yeah, like you say there, it didn't work out. Managers, I suppose, you need to be able to get the best out of players, and it led to, I think Falkirk actually ended up, you just parted ways and then you signed for Inverness. Was that correct?
Yeah, that was correct. Yeah, I'd said to Falkirk that I wasn't happy, and then that you know, he said that he'd wanted to bring in a lot of players in January, so I kind of, you know, I knew I probably wasn't going to play if he was going to bring in a couple of strikers in January. So I kind of, we just came to the decision that the best thing for everyone was he could get someone he wants in, and I can, you know, go and try and get another club. So, you know, about 3 or 4 days before the transfer window opened, spoke to my agent and spoke to a few clubs, and, you know, lucky enough, like that, I'm saying, I've always been in a situation where there's always been teams who want to sign me. So, you know, I had a lot of teams who wanted to sign me. You know, I'd basically agreed with Livingston to sign there. Went and met the manager and the assistant and walked around the training ground and that. And then the next day we were going to finalise the deal. I got a phone call. I was playing pool with my mate for John Robertson, and, you know, I think from most people who ever spoke to him, you know, he's so enthusiastic and bubbly and stuff. You know, it kind of made it hard for me to say no, because he'd actually came into East Fife while I was there to do a bit of striker training, and, you know, I enjoyed that, and, you know, having the chance to work with him again, and being away from, you know, someone that you could focus on football. You know, being up in Inverness and just focusing on football kind of makes sense to me, because I was at a point where, you know, I thought I was still good enough to make that extra step up. So to get away from everything to try and do that, it kind of made sense for me.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think there's any taken away from the fact that you're good enough to do that. We've seen that throughout your career and at your time at Kelty as well. What was it like making the switch between the, you know, two teams in the same league? So you're playing the second half of the season against a Falkirk, and what you said about finishing up at Falkirk, where it's a bit of a shame, because, you know, Hartley obviously he's came in, he's had a team there that came second. So, you know you've got boys there that can do it. You would maybe need to strengthen up and straighten a few things out. So it's disappointing, but we know how that sort of ended. But what was it like, making that switch and going up against Falkirk?
It wasn't, like I said, he made so many changes that it wasn't. There was only maybe a couple of boys who were there, so it wasn't like the same Falkirk. You know, if I just left and they'd kept the whole team, you're playing up against your friends and stuff. No, it maybe a bit different, but the fact he had come in to a club, to us who had finished second, I think we'd got beaten the first 4 or 5 games, which was obviously bad. But the fact that he wanted to change the whole team after that, rather than try and galvanise us, trying to get us back to being a unit, it kind of fractured the group, and it kind of, you know, especially the more experienced players like Lee Miller and stuff and Curzo, you know, it made a division between the management and the team. And obviously the boys that had been there for a while, not a while, but had been there before, like myself, they all kind of left. So when it came back to playing Falkirk, it wasn't like, and obviously the fans are still there, but it's not like you're in the fans every week, seeing who the fans are, you know. So in terms of the squad and the team, it was totally different. You know, there's only a few players left after I left, so it wasn't really a big deal for me.
Fair enough. And that Inverness then, what was that like? Obviously, you said it was playing quite far away from home. Inverness, it's always been a sort of tough place to go. It's quite an interesting stadium they've got up there as well. What was it like playing up in the Highlands?
It was similar to Falkirk. You know, at the start, I got tough with the injuries, and it was hard being away for my family and stuff. And then I got back fit, and then I started scoring goals towards the end of the season. I think I finished with 8 goals for Inverness. So I managed to score a hat-trick against Dumbarton, and then, you know, scored a few good goals. So, you know, it went really well the first season, and obviously I had the next season signed there anyway. And, you know, Joe Root said, I want you to be my number 9 and stuff. So, you know, the next season, getting prepared, and then I had my daughter. I think it was about 2-3 weeks before pre-season.
Right.
So when it came back to being pre-season, I hadn't done any fitness work at all. So it kind of showed that I was, usually when I come back to pre-season, I like to do my pre-season 3-4 weeks before I come back. So we'll say 2 weeks at least. So you're a week ahead of what they've got planned for you, so you're not toiling. But that was the first pre-season I ever toiled, in terms of I was like, I usually mid-group, but I was at the back. So that was the first season I was ever at the back, and it kind of showed. And it just never really hit off in the second season. And sometimes I feel like I didn't get enough of a chance, but then sometimes I think, well, sometimes that's just what happens in football. So no, I enjoyed my time at Inverness. A beautiful place, and got John Robertson still got on with him and stuff, but it just didn't work out in the end. And I think the games I did play, I showed enough how good I was, because when it came to leaving Inverness, it showed the amount of offers I had. So I must have done something right up there.
No, absolutely, and we'll get on to the whole leaving Inverness and how the move came about, because it was a big one. There was a lot of stories going about at the time. But looking still at your time at Inverness, there was some big games, but I suppose one of the biggest sort of runs of Inverness while you were there, it was a Scottish Cup run, and that included a double header against Ross County. That's obviously a massive rival to Inverness. You played in those games. I think you came on as a substitute in them, and I think it was over 2 legs. It was a replay, 2-2, 2-2, and then it went to penalties, and you got given that football when it was 4-4, last penalty, the shootout. What was that like? That must have been a pretty intense moment, especially in a derby game.
Yeah, it was. Obviously I came on in extra time, so you kind of know that if it goes to penalties, that you're going to be nominated for a penalty. I'm never saying I'm the best penalty taker, but would never say no kind of thing. And I actually played okay in the extra time. That kind of made it easier, because I had a few nice touches in the extra time. If a few balls had sclaffed off my shin, or a few ones had went into the stand, it maybe make it more nervous. But because of the fact that I'd done okay in extra time, it made it a wee bit more relaxing for the penalties. And I wasn't taking a penalty to lose, if you know what I mean. So if I'd missed it, the game wasn't over. That's the way I see it. So it makes it less pressure on you. But obviously there was pressure, because you're taking a penalty to win, a Scottish Cup against your rivals. But you can trying to put it into my mind to make it more easier for myself. It was like, if I miss this, we've not lost. So. No, and after that moment, it was just pure elation, and it was absolutely buzzing, and it was good for the team and that. But no, it was a moment I'll look back on fondly. It popped up on my Twitter memories a week or so ago, and you score a goal against Ross County, the Inverness fans will love you forever. So no, it was good.
Oh, exactly. And so I suppose that brings us on to Kelty, and that was a massive. It was talked about not just in Kelty, but it was talked about obviously all over Scotland. It was a massive, probably the biggest signing there's been as far as Lowland goes, was you making that shift for Inverness down to Kelty. I think there was even talk at one point about it was sort of hanging in it was in the wind whether you were going to be coming or no, depending on how Inverness did in the playoffs that season. What was the story behind that move from Inverness to Kelty? How did it come about? What was the factors behind that move?
Well, I made it. I made inquiries in the January, because quite a few teams tried to give me a loan because I wasn't playing as much. I spoke to John Robertson, and he'd already offered the players that had been playing more often, already offered them deals. So he hadn't spoke to me about it, kind of thing. So I just said to the agent, look, I'm thinking about just not being full time anymore. I got offered a good apprenticeship, and I'm at an age where, if I complete my apprenticeship, then I'm at a good age that I could have a good career after football in terms of that. And obviously I've been part-time playing football before, so it wasn't like some people maybe be full-time their whole life football and then have to try and find a career after it, whereas I have worked before playing football, so it wasn't like something I was scared of to give up saying I'm a professional football player to go and have a career outside of that. So I just said to my agent, look, if my deal's up at the end of the year, I applied for a mortgage at the time, and they basically laughed at me because I didn't have a contract. You try and save up a deposit to get a mortgage, but you've not got a job after it. You've got no chance, kind of thing. So, all them kind of factors. I've got a young family. I didn't want to be bouncing from here to there or back. I could have still played full time for another 5-6 years, maybe. But after that, what happened? So, I just took a decision and just thought, I'm going to make the best decision for myself and my family. So, like I said I'm not really interested in full time, but I always listen to, if someone wanted to speak to me about signing me, I always listen to them, no matter who they are. I just said, look, I don't want to be up in here in Inverness. I'm moving my family back down the road. I'm going back down the road. So a club who's close to home who wants to sign me, you know, I'm willing to. Obviously, East Fife were going to be the team who I would probably have chose, because you know that's a team I've played so performed so well, and I know that they probably would want me back. But you know, within 3 or 4 days, you know, the phone was going mental about teams who were trying to sign me and stuff. And you know, I think when it came to head was towards the end of the season, and Dean phoned me, spoke to me, and he sent me the plans for the new stadium and stuff, and said that you want to be a new party and that. And then Barry Ferguson obviously phoned me and that, and he was like, "Look, I'll come up and we'll just have a chat." And I was like, you know, someone of that caliber willing to travel the A9, which I hate traveling up there, you know, 2-3 hours,
Horrible.
2-3 hours just to have a chat. You know, it kind of speaks volume of him as a person, and obviously how highly he values me. And it was between East Fife and Kelty who were signed for, but you know, them wee things kind of made a difference. And then at the end, when you do sign for Kelty, you get all these rumours of what you've signed for, which I wish I did sign for, because I wouldn't play half the weeks if I got paid for what they got told. But no, that's what I'm saying. But when it came down to it, you know, the money wasn't even that. It wasn't even East Fife offered me a great deal, and Kelty offered me a great deal. There wasn't even that much between it. I just thought I could probably go back to East Fife later on in my career. This is a chance that I could maybe do now, maybe do something special. Maybe, you know, try and, you know, it's going to be history if we get Kelty promoted, you know. So it was something that I, you know, at a good time in my career, that I want to play football every game. I want to score as much goals as possible. And I just put all them factors in, and how much the manager wanted me. And it kind of just, you know, you got a ticky box on that side, ticky box on that side. And just at that time, I felt like Kelty ticked a little bit more boxes for me. And, no, I made the decision. I don't regret it, and you know, I've enjoyed it ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we could try and quash these money talks all you want, but they're always going to be there. It's one of the frustrating things about following Kelty, and it will be for playing for Kelty as well. But I think I've even had, you know, people thinking that we get money for doing the podcast and doing the commentary, which you just got to let them think it. But no, you're quite right. Those are, you know, some good points for why you signed for Kelty, especially when you said about obviously Barry can't meet with you after you did sign for Kelty, and you played obviously a couple of seasons. You had an idea in your mind of what it was going to be like playing for Barry. How's it actually materialised? Is it what you expected?
That's what I'm saying. You hear a lot of stories, obviously, with boys at Clyde, that I know a few boys and stuff, and then obviously Dylan had played with him before, and all I got for was his intents, but he's like, he wants to do it the right way, you know, he wants to win, you know, he demands a lot, and I demand a lot for myself, you know. I get frustrated when things don't come off when I play, and you know, I want to win, you know. I class myself as a winner, so you know, them things didn't scare me. And in terms of, you know, him as a manager, for me personally, has been brilliant. You know, me and him have got a great relationship. You know, even just speaking recently there, you know, he let me go out on loan to East Fife. You know, I could have got injured or anything could have happened to me, but he, you know, respected my wishes to go and just play football. And you know, that's what I'm saying. We've got a great relationship, and you know, I can't speak more highly of him. You know, we get on so well, and it's been a great 2 seasons so far with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think everybody I've spoke to have said exactly the same. He's a winner, and that's exactly it. He's, you know, intense, like you say, but it's because he's got standards and he wants to win, and that it clearly rubs off on each and every one of the guys that puts on in the room week in, week out. So I could totally understand totally understand what you're saying there. What was it like going back to East Fife? Obviously, being a Kelty fan, I've got friends that are fans of football clubs all across Scottish football, and I pointed out, he's starting for East Fife, and yeah, it didn't take long before I was able to send him a wee screenshot of a tweet saying you'd netted straight away as well, and it was a classic sort of Nathan Austin goal. You got your chance and you dinked it into the bottom corner. What was it like getting to go back to East Fife after a few years away?
Yeah, it was good. It was amazing, you know, seeing some familiar faces, you know, especially with the background people, you know, the kit man and stuff like that, and Kev Smith still the captain there, and Pat Slattery, who I'm still good friends with. So it was great in that aspect. It was, you know, the only thing I've got to say, it was tough because I went back and then I played on the Tuesday against NLSU, and then I played straight on the Saturday, whereas they had went back the week before, so they had 4 full sessions 2 double sessions before I went back. So in terms of the playing side, I found it hard physically because I was just not as fit as what they were. You know, obviously I'd started okay against Clyde, but I think you could tell that I tailed off maybe about 60th minute, and then even against Cove started off okay, and then just started. You know, it would have been good to get a good level of fitness before I went to play how I can and how I know I can. But you know, in terms of just going back there for the experience, and you know, it was amazing just pulling on that shirt again. And you know, I think I've never hid how much I enjoy playing for East Fife, and you know, that's my home team. But no, it was great, and to try and help them, you know, in their hour of need a little bit. You know, they didn't have all the players they wanted to get in at the time, and you know, with all the manic schedule, I was just happy to go in and help them as much as I could before I found out what was happening with us. You know, it kind of gave me 2 weeks without thinking about Kelty side, where I could just play football and just try and get fit, whilst you know that in the background got dealt with, and you know it has at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that there'll be plenty of East Fife supporters and players background that are all, they're probably hoping for a different outcome, but it's obviously came out that we've got Brora Rangers coming up. So you're back on Kelty Hearts duty, sort of working towards that. What's your thoughts on that game coming up? I suppose first and foremost, got to say well done for getting another league medal. It's another championship, but the most important thing I think we all know is it's looking likely we're going to get that opportunity to do what you've already spoke about, and to see the club progress. As far as I'm aware, you haven't been able to get back to training. You haven't had the green light for the SFA yet. What's that like at the moment, knowing that? Because I doubt there's anybody at Kelty Hearts that isn't itching to just get back to training and start preparing, but waiting on the green light. What's that like?
It's really it's probably more frustrating than it was last year, because you know, last year it was taken out of our hands, so it's nothing we can do. It's the fact that we've got a chance to, you know, maybe progress, and we're not getting a chance to, you know, perform the best we can, you know. But we're maybe only going to have like 2.5 weeks of training before we're going to be asked to play one of the biggest games in the club's history. I don't understand how that's fair. You know, Brora themselves, obviously, they've done well in the Scottish, but that means that they've had that extra little bit to, you know, to train and get sharp. You know, it's going to be tough as it is going up against, you know, a top quality team like Brora. But, you know, if you asked a team to play 2 weeks pre-season and go straight into the league, you know, you wouldn't ask that of a team. So it's going to be really tough. And, you know, I feel like we're getting a little bit handicapped at the moment, you know, with hands tied behind our back, not getting to train. And, you know, there's only so many, like I said, I've done all the running for Kelty, but then going back to East Fife and actually playing football, it's a totally different, trying to get that match sharpness and that match fitness without actually playing football or physically, you know, holding off players or, you know, passing and moving. You know, you're never going to get that just running on the street. So at the moment, you know, it's really frustrating. And, you know, the sooner we get the green light, the sooner we can get back training and start working on them towards, you know, the biggest game in the club's history.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you touched on it there, the runs have been a big part. Try to keep your base fitness up there, but it doesn't quite compare to match fitness. I think Tidza said exactly the same when I spoke to him. You know that the boys in the team, that they're good enough that if you get back and get that 2.5 weeks of training or whatever it is, that they're going to be good enough to, you still got to fancy against Brora. It's still going to be playing in your mind, but the calibre of players at Kelty, that's obviously going to help. See, when you look at that team, obviously I think I mentioned at the beginning, 59 goals in the couple of seasons. It's outstanding number of goals. That wouldn't be possible without sort of the support and the guys playing behind you, setting you up for those goals. Who are some of the standouts that you play alongside, whether it's been last season or this season, that I suppose enable you to be able to be as good as you are at what you do?
I think it's the fact that we've, you know, I think the Gaffer pride himself on building a good defence, you know. So, you know, in terms of it going out there, I know that I don't need to, you know, necessarily, you know, claw my ass into to over exert myself to going back the way, save most of my energy for going forward. You know, obviously I try and help them out as much as possible, but you know, sometimes when you play for some teams, you're asked to, you know, follow runners all the way back, whereas you know, I'm not asked to do that. You know, the Gaffer said at the start he wanted to kind of build the team to suit me, how I kind of play, and I think we do that sometimes. You know, sometimes we get the ball long, but also showing this season we can keep the ball for half an hour at a time. So for me personally, you know, it'd probably be the likes of, like, you know, Tidza, Thomas Riley, you know, your Dylan Easons, your Higgies, your Scotty Linton last year, obviously. Yeah, brilliant. You know, as soon as they get the head up, they're kind of looking for you, and it makes it easy for yourself. You know, you don't have to ask for the ball. You don't need to hold your run. You know, I think a lot of people know the way I play. You know, I'm on that last man, so if the ball's not played at the right time, you're offside. You know, half the time I am offside, but if they didn't play it when they did, I'd be offside every time. So, you know, that's the difference. And you know, obviously thankful for them. You know, I wouldn't score any goals if it wasn't for them. So yeah, thankful for them all. To be honest with you, without seeming to, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think your ability to turn the defender and what you say there, playing off the last man, definitely your biggest enemy every game seems to be that lino. And they feel it. They definitely feel it throughout the game. But do you know what? If it does happen 2, maybe even 3 times, you only need to get through once, and we've seen that so many times over the last 2 seasons. And I think when you're one-on-one with the keeper, there's nobody in the league that does it any better. And yeah, you mentioned about the guys at the back. It's easy. I suppose it's easier to do what you do when you're only conceding the 4 goals over the 13 games. That's got to make it a hell of a lot easier. And I've been lucky enough to see enough of the training sessions as well to see that competitive edge goes through you all. Before we finish off, there's one other thing I want to ask you about. Looking and preparing for doing the interview today, something that everybody's familiar with is when you were younger, obviously racism was it was a huge issue for you at a very young age, and that's been well documented. But I want to ask you see, in your professional career, particularly in Scotland and at Kelty Hearts, what's it been like progressing through? Because we've seen it very recently with the likes, say, what happened at Rangers with Glenn Kamara and Roof. We saw it with Valencia the other day as well, where players walked off. It's still a major issue in football. What's it been like at the level you've been playing at over the last few years?
It's been totally fine. You know, like I said, I can't speak for every single person, but you know, in terms of like the racism I've received in terms of being a professional footballer is minimal to none. You know, in terms of the players I've played against, you know, there's like a respect kind of thing. You know, obviously there's sometimes you don't get on or you hate someone, but there's a respect between you don't have to like everyone. You know what I mean? But it's never turned to racism. You know, you could rip someone or whatever it is, but it doesn't come down to your colour or who you are kind of thing. And I think in Scotland, you know, it does get a bad name, but you know, in terms of the players, I couldn't speak more highly of them. You know, the players that I've played against, you know, had some tough battles, and some people don't like me, I don't like them, but it's never came down to that kind of thing. So no, from my point of view, it's been okay. It's more on the social media side nowadays when people can make profiles and that. You know, I was watching the Man U game the other day. I think it was against Leicester, and Fred gave the bad back pass back to the goalie, and the first thing on my mind was I knew he was going to get racially abused on Twitter or Instagram. I knew he was in it, and you know that's a bad thing when I'm thinking about that just because he's just made a mistake on the pitch. You know, it's crazy the world we live in when that's the first thought on my mind was, you know, I'm a Man United fan, but the first thought on my mind was not that he's just fucked it up and he's an arsehole. It was the fact that he was going to get abused on Twitter or social media. And no, I think that you need to change people's point of view and things like that, because you know that's not the world we should be living in. And I think that makes the world we live in a bad place, because it's not like that. You know, the world is better than what is made out on social media, I think.
Aye, absolutely. Social media can be a wonderful thing, but at the same time, the way that it's set up, it can be just it can be a tool for just pure evil at times, to be honest. I don't understand myself the ability to create these multiple profiles. You know, if you sign up for a Sky Bet account, you have to put in IDs and prove that you're 18. It's inevitable it's going to happen with social media, but it's amazing that it hasn't happened yet, or there's such a slow reaction to it from the people who have a responsibility, I suppose, to make it happen. But
yeah, I think so, definitely.
Yeah, it's brilliant to hear, obviously, that your experiences have been good in football, because that was looking back at knowing everything that's going on just now and having a look back before an interview today. I think it would have been a huge loss if you'd made that decision to step away from football when you were younger, not just for Kelty Hearts, because it 100% would have been for Kelty Hearts, but for football in general and for yourself. So it's I suppose it's pleasing to hear that your experiences have been better. Luke, thanks very much for coming on and chatting. It's been an enjoyable one. Been brilliant to hear about your time, and I suppose clear up a few of those misconceptions about you joining Kelty, and the hearing about your approach to football while you're at Kelty. It's been fantastic to hear, and I just cannot wait until the 24th. I think it's been announced it's Brora coming to New Central Park. You guys are going to get into training sooner rather than later, hopefully, and can't wait for that game. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Just to get the chance to, like I'm saying, I'd just like to touch on just quickly was the league title. We're not as a team going around celebrating the league title. Last year we just wanted our chance. We got the league title on a Tuesday after a game. And we got a picture at the side of the pitch. I think East Kilbride the season before probably would have had a parade around the pitch and celebrated for days on end. We've never done that. We have banner and that on Twitter and that, but in terms of that, we just wanted our chance to let the pyramid do what it should. We're not celebrating the league title in any instance, and we could go up to Bro and they could beat us. That's fair enough. That's just football. But to not be given the chance like we did last year was the heartbreaking thing for all the players. We were not for one instant saying that we should be promoted or anything. We just wanted our chance, and this year we've got a chance, and no matter the circumstances, we're just thankful to have the chance. So that's just I think that's what me and the rest of the players our thoughts are on that.
Yeah, quite right as well. It's no matter how you look at it, it's been 38 games, 34 wins out of those 38 games, and you're getting one shot at it. It's not like you're getting a second shot or an extra shot off of the back of 13. You're getting one shot off of the back of 34
and
wins.
The league schedule we got given this year, I know everyone was like, we've not played the top teams, but at the start of the season, we were really disappointed in the league schedule because they basically gave us the top 4 teams back to back over the Christmas period. At the start, we were set up to get tripped up by playing 4 of the top teams who were always going to be there over the Christmas period, where there could have been injuries or whatever. You were going to have to perform at the top level for the 4 games over there, and it just worked out that we didn't have that. But when we first got the fixtures in, I don't think another team was going to play a harder set of fixtures towards the end of them than us. So it's worked in our favour this time. But at the start, it wasn't really a favourable fixture list that we got given.
Actually, that's a fantastic point as well. I didn't think about it like that, but Bonnyrigg back-to-back and BSC Glasgow back-to-back, I think were the games over 4 weeks for Christmas onwards. So, yeah, you're quite right. It's a brilliant point. And, yeah, regardless of what gets said, social media, anything, I think there's no denying that you boys deserve a shot at it. And, yeah.
Plus, I wasn't fit for the East Kilbride game, so I think that's relevant as well, because if I was fit, then there might have been 1-1, so... you want to pull that into that as well. So I think that's
absolutely. I was thinking about. Obviously, I think it was that boy off of A View for a Terrace. He put something out on Twitter. It proper annoyed me, celebrating Stranraer knocking out a non-league. I think he was fishing, to be quite honest. But I was sitting thinking to myself about our performances when we played against St Johnstone and Dundee United. Both 2 fantastic performances. And you weren't able to play in those games as well, and that's not to discredit the rest of the team because they did a superb job.
Yeah.
But it just shows you, when you're missing a part of the team. I know you're saying in jest, I'm not. When you're missing a part of the team like yourself, to still go out and put in the performances that we did, and the Brecon was the day that you obviously came back, but you were still nursing your way back to sort of full fitness, and the boys still had to hear a screamer a day. That game. I was getting ready to wrap it up there, but that Brecon game was, I think you really saw the impact that you had, because prior to you coming on in that Brecon game, it was sort of man-to-man marking. As soon as you came in, it cleared. I want to say Higgy got a goal, an absolute peachy a goal, but I think when he scored, if it wasn't him, it was or maybe it wasn't. It was McNabb. That's it. I'll edit that so it doesn't look like I forgot one of our players. When he scored his goal, I'm sure there was 2 boys on you, 2 or maybe a third going over to you, because they thought there's a goal scoring opportunity here. You had took 2 or 3 players away, and McNabb got an opportunity to score an absolute screamer for, I think, his first goal for Kelty. But it shows you that was one of those games where you really saw the impact you have. You see it on the score sheet, but it's not just about scoring goals. So Yeah, we were definitely glad to get you back. We're definitely glad to get you back to East Fife now for the run of games that are coming up. It's, you know, whoever goes to face Club 42, whether it's us or Brora, it's looking like Brecon are going to be the team after Albion Rovers. I think they picked up a win at the weekend there and they pulled away. I think there must be a gap of about 5 points now. Yeah. Brecon need to score more points in their last couple of games than they have the whole season.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to potentially make a visit up there again. But yeah, look, league titles well deserved. We're glad to have you back, and thank you very much for taking the time to have a chat with us.
No, not a problem at all. Enjoyed that. Thank you.